Hello and welcome back for another YouTube video. My name is Mark. Today I'm going to be making it a jig so I can run my router down my Vestal track or any track for a Tracksaw. In this video, what I'm going to try and do is to make a jig so I can run that. You can use the guide of the Tracksaw to run the router in a straight line. But I want to try and do it in such a way that the router stays on the surface it's cutting. So I don't want to mount the router on a piece of ply. So I looked at it on YouTube and there's loads of other people have done it. They've mounted, there's nothing wrong with doing like that, but they've mounted it on a piece of ply. But you've got to keep bolting the router on and off a bit of ply, and then when you want to change the cutter it's sort of in the way. So I want to try and do it so the router sits flat on the surface just like it is normally. So what I'm going to try and do is use the fence. You get the two bars, these two bars, but for the fence attached to that part, which you get with every, well, presumably I think you get with every router when you buy it. But that usually detaches because they're too tight to give you a big enough box for the whole thing to fit in. So they usually make the whole thing come apart. So what I'm going to do is try and attach those into that track. So then I can run it down the track in a straight line, flat on the surface, and then it's all to release it from the track. All I have to do is just literally undo those two wing nuts on there, pull it off. If you want, you can leave those two attached, or the whole thing can just come apart. That's the plan anyway. So I've cut this little strip of ply down that goes in this slot. Got a nice, well, a tight fit, but obviously it's got a better sort of slide nicely. I'm just going to make this up out of ply. It's a bit of an experimental thing, so I don't want to spend hours and hours making it out of something else, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So yeah, I would say you could make it out of metal if you wanted to, which obviously be a lot stronger, but I think this will be okay. So I cut that piece of ply down. There's slides in there. So the next thing is I want to cut another piece of ply that's going to come up off of there, and then glue and screw them together. So I'll cut that down and come back. So I glued and screwed this together. So I've now made like, well, I suppose it's sort of upside down, or almost a T. So clean the glue off of there. Should then run down the track with that bit sticking up in the air. So you've got that bit in there like that. So I've cut another strip of ply down, so that's going to glue and screw that onto there. So you've got that little lip at the bottom there, which is like that part of the track to allow it to run down smoothly. So I'll just glue and screw them together. So I've now got them made up. That's the cross section of it. So then that slides down there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach another piece to there, which is going to take the two holes, or the two holes for the two rods of the router. So I'll cut that down to size, then we can mark the holes, drill it. Now I was going to drill it, cut it in half, and then put two bolts in it so you can bolt it back together, which will then put pressure on the rods, which should hold it in position to allow it to slide up and down. That's the plan anyway. Okay, I'll cut this down to size first, and there you go, Pro, stop recording. So I've cut this, which is a bit of 18mm ply down, so that can be fixed to the track, so that slides. Okay, my hands out of the way of the camera, so that will slide, as of course look like that. So I'll put those two on there. Obviously get it in the centre. Mark the centres. Drill 2 holes the same diameter as this tube, and then stick it through the saw bench. Cut it in half. The piece I cut out should then allow me to make it like a clamp with a bolt between the two pieces. So if I mark, well, obviously I'll get them equal from each end. Mark them, drill them out, and then I'll show you what I mean. So I've drilled it out, so that'll push on there. So the plan now is to put a saw cut through the middle, and then join it back together with a nut and a bolt. So then it'll because the saw cut going through will make the gap in there smaller. Should just be enough to get some pressure on to bolt it to hold it in position. So I'll cut it in half. Okay, so I've cut that in half. So you've got like half the hole, drilled hole there, and the other half on the top. So move the camera so you can see. So if I now stick a couple of bolts in there, it should get enough pressure on there to hold that nice and tight. Well, I'll drill it out and have a go. So I'm going to drill. Got it in the vise. I'm going to drill 3 6mm holes. I've clamped the two pieces together so it's all nice and square. I'm going to drill 3 holes straight through the whole lot. So that's what I've made up then. So put the two bars in there and clamp it shut hopefully. So I've put those on the bottom. I've sort of countersunk them in, just done a lot like with bits of threaded rod really. So I just buried the nut head in the ply. I did really intend to have wing nuts on there. I thought I had some in the drawer, but I haven't. So I'll have to get them swap them. But it'd be a lot easier to obviously undo it and do it up with wing nuts. So I'll set it up now and see how it goes. So I've just nipped them up with a pair of pliers. I haven't done them stupidly tight. They're pretty much just not much more than finger tight really. It's pretty solid on there. So if I now clamp that to that, push the router right in, it should then hopefully work. So I'll bolt these two together. Maybe easier if I bolt those together through here, and then if you want to separate it, if you want to mess around with the router or anything, then you can just lift this section off with that part still attached. It'll be easier than trying to undo those, or you can undo those and sort of slide it off. So it's going to be sort of an either or really, but I think I'll just bolt it on, it'll be easier. So I've bolted the whole thing together now. All the nuts were a little bit too long really, the only ones I had. As I said, I should have had some wing nuts, it would have been better because then it would have been easier to take apart, but I can easily change them afterwards. So it now slides backwards and forwards down the track. Okay. It's worked. I mean, I think it's worked out okay. It's pretty locked in, those bars are. I don't think they'll be going anywhere. I think it's probably better to keep the router locked up tight against it. Seems easier, or keep it pretty close anyway. I mean, because you can bolt the track on. If you want a bit of fine adjustment, you don't want to move the track, you can just, you know, move it backwards and forwards on like the fence rails. So that's it for this video. So let me know what you think in the comments, or if you think it's any good, maybe a thumbs up, and if you'd like to subscribe, that'd be really good. Thanks a lot for watching.